for those who are away, and travel safely for those who leave, and go peacefully and come back peacefully. Tonight we are learning Parshas Vayeira. Parshas Vayeira you can find in your Chumashim on chapter 18, which is verse 70, page 78 in the Hebrew or 79 in the English of Chumash Bereshis. The story of Vayeira is a very beautiful story, starting with God, so-called observing the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim. God is visiting the sick. Who is the one who did the visit? This is our forefather Abraham, Avraham Avinu, that what we read last week in the Torah, the Avram ben Tishim v'teisha shana behimolei psar orlosoi. Avram was 99 years old when he had gone through a bris milah, circumcision, brezania. And in the age of 99, he needed a recovery. Every bris needs a recovery. So now he is in his tent recovering from the so-called surgery or the brit, and God comes and appears to Abraham. As the classic story told by the Rabbi many times, that when one of the Chabad rabbis, Shalom Dovber, was a 4 or 5 years old boy, he learned Parshas Vayera, and he came crying to his father. And he cried to his father that he's learned in the Chumash that Hashem appeared before Avraham, and he wants to experience a similar visit. How comes Avraham at God visiting him and he doesn't? And his father told them, when a Yid a tzaddik, when a Jew, a righteous Jew in the age of 99 commits to circumcision, he deserves that God should reveal himself to him. So Avram is being visited by God, and then the irony of the story is that as God is coming to visit Avram, Avram tells God, hold on, I'm busy. What happens? The Torah says that he saw 3 men walking by the tent, and Avram was a kind man, like we spoke many times. He personified chesed, ultimate kindness. There's a very interesting passage in the Zohar. In Chassidus is brought down in the name of the Zohar that the attribute of chesed in the world of Atzilut, which is the highest level of spiritual worlds, also has one of the 10 sfirot. It's called chesed, kindness. Complained before God. And the complaint was that since Avram, done in this world, is preoccupied with his kindness, I am unemployed. I feel like I have no job to act kind in any way. He does everything which personifies and acts as kindness. Avram was the full ultimate kindness, to the point that when God wanted to make sure that Avram gives himself a chance for recovery, he made that day, the Torah says, to be excessively hot. So no guest will bother Avram. No one will travel by his tent. And yet there's the story of the 3 angels who are passing by, the 3 men, apparently, that are passing by his tent, and Avram is inviting them to join him, and they give him the good news. And some not so good news. The good news was that next year, today, Sarah, your wife, is going to give birth to a child. Sarah were old, the Torah says. They are both in their 90s. Avram was 99, and Sarah was in the 90s too. And Sarah started laughing. Huh. Come on, doesn't make any sense. Am I going to have a child? Mentioning the fact that the husband is very old. And God says to Abram, why is Sarah laughing? Is there anything abstaining from God's ability to help you give birth to a child? As you see on verse 14, Hayipole me Hashem davar. Is anything beyond Hashem? And again, he says and confirms, La moyed oshuve lecha ko'es chaya. At the appointed time, I will return to you at this time next year. Ulesara bain. And Sarah will have a son. That was the first information that they received at that visit. Then there was the other piece of news that Sodom and Gomorrah is about to be turned over, and we're going to see again Avram's commitment and love to the community, even a community as Sodom and Gomorrah, which as the Torah described, behaved so sinful and evil in the eyes of God. And Avram is begging and then bargaining with God, maybe perhaps they can get some type of relief from the decree and allow Sodom and Gomorrah to be untouched. Unfortunately, they couldn't find any merit to allow Sodom and Gomorrah to continue, which led to the famous destruction of the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. The Parsha continues with other great stories, and then the big miracle happens. Remember, God said next year. In Parsha's Vayeira is the next year appearing. And as you turn to page 95, verse 1, this is the passage that we read on Rosh Hashanah. V'Hashem pokad esoro kasher omor. Vayas Hashem esoro kasher diber. Hashem had remembered Sarah as he had said, and Hashem did for Sarah as he had spoken. Vatahar vatelet Sarah laAvraham bein diskunov lamoyed asher diber oiso Elokim. Sarah conceived and bore a son to Avram in his old age at the appointed time which God had spoken. God said him next year, exactly next year, at the time they made up, a baby boy is born to Avram. Mazel tov, everybody. Avram and Sarah gave birth to a child. Vayikra Avram Hashem b'noi anoidad loi, asher yolda loi Sarah Yitzchak. Avram called the name of his son, who was born to him, who Sarah had born him. He called him Yitzchak, he called him Isaac, right? That was the deal. Vayomol Avram es Yitzchak b'noi. Avram circumcised his son, like Hashem commanded him. Avram ben me'as shana, and Avram is exactly 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Baruch Hashem. Thank you. Beautiful. Then the story doesn't end. And this is what we are going to discuss tonight. Yitzchak is born. And then comes the next page. Turn to page 96, 97. Vayeira Sarah. And Sarah saw as ben Hagar Mitzris asher yolda leAvraham, that the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, who she had born to Avram, la metzachik, is mocking. What exactly does it mean, mocking? So there's all kinds of explanations in the Medrash. Rashi brings some of them. Basically, she saw that Yitzchak is getting to deal with a very difficult brother. The new baby, which is not a baby anymore, by verse 9. Vatoivel Avram, she says to Avraham, Goresh, O'omo azois ves beno. Chase her out. Take this slave woman Hagar with your son out of the house. Ki lo irash ben O'omo azois im bni Yitzchak. This son will not inherit with my son, with Yitzchak. Vayeira dovo me'oid beine Avram. The mother greatly distressed Avram regarding his son. Meaning, it's not like, no, my wife wants, what am I going to say anything different than my wife? She wants him out. She's right. I'm going to send him out. Says the Torah, no. The simple pshat, Rashi says, that Avram was distressed for this very fact that he's going to need to send his son out. He did not want to let that son out. This is my son. It's not your son, but it's my son. It's my firstborn son. He wasn't happy. This is probably the only time you're going to find in the Torah a description of a husband and wife and one not being happy with the other. Do you remember any other stories of husband and wife disagreeing in the Torah? I don't remember. Avram is not happy. What happens to his son? What happens to his wife? Wanting his son out. He's waiting for a message. Who is he going to turn? Who is his marriage counselor? Who is his home? Who is his marriage therapist? Who is he going to meet? He's waiting for a message from God. He has the best therapist, the best counselor, and he needs some advice. Says the next verse, Vayomer Elokim el Avram, and Shem says to Avram, Al eira beinecho al anar ve'al amrisecho. Don't be distressed over this young child and this woman. Koil asher toimar eilecho soro shma bekoilo. Whatever Sarah tells you, you should listen to your voice. She wants this boy out. If that's what the Rebbetzin want, you listen to the Rebbetzin. Send him out. But I'm distressed. It's my son. Dan says, don't be distressed. Why not? How can I not be distressed? He is my son. He is going to continue my legacy. He's my own child. Says God to Abraham, Ki beyitzchak yikorei lecho zora. Yes, Ishmael is your son, but it's only through Isaac his descendants, his offsprings will be considered yours. He's your son, but this is where it stops. Whenever I speak to you about your descendants, soon it's going to be about the land and other covenants. I don't mean that son. I mean the younger son, Yitzchak. And Sarah is right. What's going to happen with Ishmael? Says God, V'gam es ben O'omo legoya simenu. Is your son? That boy Ishmael, I will also make into a nation. Kizarachu. After all, he's your offspring. So don't worry about it. He's going to become also something. But who is going, your descendant, to be called after? After Yitzchak. So I want to discuss this story a little bit with Avraham and Sara and Hagar. This relationship is driving me a little tzumisht, a little confused. Got to figure out what happened over there. This takes us to 3 portions. Last week's portion, this week's portion, and next week's portion. So let's go start with last week's portion first. Let's see what happened there. You remember? Avram was in Egypt. He was in Egypt with his wife Sarah because there was no food in the land. While being in Egypt, Sarah was taken, call it kidnapped, by Pharaoh, the king of Egypt at that time. Which later he discovers that it's not a good idea to start up with this woman. And he lets her free. Not only lets her free, he provides Sarah and her husband a lot of gifts, a very lavish gift for the wrongdoing he was doing. Okay? Let's call it like that. And he also gives them people, servants and maidservants, and the Medrash says one of those maidservants was a beautiful girl, which her name was Hagar. And Pari says, whoa, this beautiful Hagar, she deserves to be raised in the home of Abraham and Sarah. So now there is a maid in the house of Abraham and Sarah. Abraham cannot have kids. This is last week's Torah portion. And they're already married at least 60 years, 65 years. If you want to know the exact calculation, I can tell you right now. It's very simple. Abraham was at 25, according to the Medrash, when he got married. Sarah was 16. Abraham is in the age of 85. Sarah is in the age of 76. This is 60 years that they don't have any kids. And Sarah, his own wife, so-called takes the law in her own hand. And she comes with a very unusual, extremely unusual idea, which a wife would ever do, to try to help your husband. And what does she tell her husband? You know, Avram, you're getting older. It's not happening. Looks like I'm not the one making it for you. Marry this maid. Try to build yourself a family with this woman. Remember, this project is only initiated by who? No. Sarah. Sarah's plan. There's no message, there's no heavenly voice, there's no intervention, there's no advisor, there's no mamre. Nobody is here involved. There is one and only woman, the beloved wife of Abraham, called Sarah, who is married to him for so many years, went through so many challenges. She's the one who introduces a shidduch for her own husband in order to build a family. And she says, take this beautiful Hagar. Right? Try it. This is exactly what he told her. We read it last week. Let's read the pasuk one more time. On page 70, verse 1, or page 71 in the English. So you see. And Sarai, Eshes Avram, lo yolda loy. Sarai, Avram's wife, did not have children for him. And they had an Egyptian maid servant whose name was Hagar. But Toimer Sarai el Avram, and Sarai said to Avram, Inei no tzorani Hashem miledes. Hashem has restrained me from bearing. I can't have children. I can't conceive. Bono eshivchasi. I have a maidservant. Hagar apparently was Sarah's maidservant. Sometimes the woman had her own maid and the man had his own slave. So here you have, take my maidservant. Ulai ibane mimeno. Perhaps I will be built up through here. Meaning I am destroyed. I need to be rebuilt. And I can be rebuilt to who? To Hagar. Meaning, as the Ramban clearly says, Nachmanides writes, Abraham did not do anything on his own to try to interfere in his relationship with Sarah. As much that Abraham wanted to have children, as much that he desired to build a family, says the Ramban, he did not do it without Sarah's permission. And even that, she said, I'm going to be rebuilt through here. Perhaps I'm going to have some nachas by my mate's children. I can take them to the park. I can go with them to Toys R Us. And I'm going to look like I'm having some children to play with. And do Skype with them. With Hagar's kids. Or as the Ramban says, perhaps God is going to see that I'm giving even my maid to Abraham. Allowing my maid to be his wife in order to have a child. God perhaps is going to have extra mercy on me and allow me to have my own child. But she clearly initiates this project. Right? She's the one who does it. And the surprising thing happened. Abraham is turning into a father. And at that point, the status of Hagar changes. Till now, she was a simple maid. Helping with, with homework. Suddenly, she's the mother of Avram's child. And this has a little impact on her. She lifts up your head. From being a maid, I'm the one who brought a child to my master. And what happens then? Verse 4 said last week's Parsha. Once she saw that she conceived, then Sarah became Lord in her esteem. Vateikal gvirto beinel. She looked at Sarah like, okay, look, I'm ahead of you. I brought a child to the master. And Sarah comes to Avram and he says, look what's going on. That's not right. I gave you the maid. And look at the way she behaves. And she can't. And Avram says, Rebbetzin, do as you wish. You know, this was your idea. Help the situation. Helping the situation, Sarah goes on her case to the point that Hagar cannot take it anymore and she leaves the house with the baby in her hands. And Avram never stands like this. So he's faithful to Sarah, right? By letting her decide how she wishes, as you see in verse 6, Asilo atov beinaich, do as you wish. And Sarah does as she wishes. When someone is bothering you and is in your face and is lenient, suddenly you're becoming a schlepper in your eyes. And what does it cause? It causes for Hagar to leave the house. She has a story. There's an angel who meets here, and he tells her, "What are you doing?" She says, "What happened? I'm running away from my mistress, from Sarah." And the angel tells her, "Don't you worry. Go back. Go back. Give birth to this child. Name him Ishmael. Name him Ishmael." And she tells him why. Shamael. God heard your prayers. Hagar is praying, Rebbetzin Hagar, and she gives birth to a boy Ishmael, and there's all kinds of prophecies about this Ishmael. Avram is 86 years old when Hagar is giving birth to Ishmael. This is story number 1. This is which Parsha? Last week's Parsha. Comes this week's Parsha, Parsha's Vayera. There is 13 years after the birth of Ishmael, and the next miracle takes place. The real miracle. What's the real miracle? Sarah conceives and she becomes pregnant. And now she is giving birth to the miracle boy, Yitzchak. And now there are 2 children at home. There is Ishmael and there is Yitzchak. And Ishmael is starting to bother Yitzchak, introducing him to all kinds of bad stuff. Matzachik says, "Come." Opens his little smartphone. Ishmael says, "Let me show you a bunch of things that you probably didn't hear from your father and your mother." And he's trying to corrupt him. And this is what we just read. Hashem tells Avram, listen, if she wants out, send them out. What was bothering Sarah? What was she distressed about? Was it just jealousy? Was it just jealousy between 2 women? 2 wives? What was behind the idea? Assume we should say that she was bothered by the fact that Yitzchak gets corrupted by you. No, she says he's going to inherit with my son Yitzchak. Is this an issue of inheritance? Is this a financial dispute? Who gets more? What kind of concern that suddenly inherited? What was she afraid of? What is Avram's response? This is even more difficult than everything. When Avram hears that he has to listen to Sarah, and when he hears that Hashem says, send them out, what does Avram tell God? Let's go back to this week's Parsha. This is the strangest things I ever saw. Literally. I'm sorry, last week's Parsha. When he's being informed that Ishmael is going to give birth and you're going to have your own son. Listen to that. Let's go back a second to last week's Parsha. On page 75. Hashem promised Avram a child with Sarah. Right? Last week he promised him a child. That's what verse 15 says or not? Let's read it in English. And God said to Abraham, as for Sarah your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. I will bless her indeed. I will give you a son through her. I will bless her, and she shall give rise to nations. Kings of people will rise from here. So there's a clear promise that Sarah is going to have a child. A special child. And what is Avram responding when God tells him those words? On verse 18, Vayomer Avram el Elikim, and Avram says to God, okay, please. Lu Yishmael ichya lefanecha. I hope that, we'll be happy if just Ishmael makes it and he finds life before you. That's what you're telling God. Hashem is giving you a blessing for a child. What does he want? Say thank you. Amen. No, he doesn't say amen. What does he say? Listen, God, I have Ishmael. Let me hope that this Ishmael grows up to be a mensch. Let Ishmael be a good boy. Hashem is giving you a blessing for a child with Sarah. Your wife for 60 years. What do you say? Amen. Spasiba. Thank you. You don't go back to Hashem and say, oh, you know what, but Alevai Ishmael. What do you mean Alevai Ishmael? I wish Ishmael is all right. You get a blessing for your wife Sarah. And what does Hashem say back to Abraham when Abraham makes that comment? Vayomer Elokim. Hashem says, oh, don't think I'm taking it back. Aval, Sarai ishtecha yoledet lecha ben. Sarah, your wife, will bear a son to you. And you should call him Isaac. V'karat shmo Yitzchak. V'akimoti et briti itoi. And I will fulfill my covenant with them as an everlasting covenant for his offsprings after him. Uli Ishmael, regarding Ishmael, that you asked me about Ishmael, Shmaticha, I heard you. Birachti oto, it's okay, I gave him my blessing. He's going to be very fruitful. 12 nations. Oh, you're going to have Ishmael. All over the world, the Muslims are growing like cockroaches everywhere. Everywhere. Even right here. There's no place you go and you don't see them. They're taking over the world. Everybody's nervous. Europe. What do you mean? Abraham asked for it. You are the one who asked for it. Hashem told you, I'm giving you. It's like when you say, please, I wish Ishmael makes it. I'm giving you Yitzchak anyway. And Ishmael is going to make it too. Koyach. Avram rejects this news about a baby boy being born to him. Kind of rejects it. And he says, Lu Ishmael, it's okay. I wish. Will sein. Let it just be Ishmael. This is not the end. It becomes even more weird as we go to the next Parsha. Chai Sorrow. You're not going to be here, so listen to something I've wrote about next Parsha. Or you are going to be here. No, you're not. Okay. Next week is Parsha Chai Sorrow. Chai Sorrow starts. This the Rebbe's and Sara and Hagar. After all what she went through, she gave birth to a baby, and her son finally is a 30-year-old boy. He's not finding a shidduch yet. And you have to leave, you can leave, no problems. You can't find a shidduch yet. And what happens? Sara and Hagar dies. There is a funeral. There is a levaya. He has to find a plot for here. He negotiates with this guy Ephron to buy Hebron. He buys here a plot in Hebron, which becomes the cave of the patriarchs and the matriarchs until today. And now he's concentrating on his son Isaac, trying to help him to find a girl. This is already after the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. All the amazing stories happen in this week's Parsha. Yitzchak is finally married. Beautiful girl, Rivka, a match made in heaven. Eliezer, the matchmaker, the Shadchan, getroffen, a guten Shidduch. What a nice girl, all the way from Haran. A girl with the name Rivka. They're getting married. No, Avram, his son is married, Baruch Hashem. The Rebbetzin is old. You are already over 100 years old. The Rebbetzin passed away. Remember, God said you're not going to live more than 120 years anyway. Come, relax. What does next week's Parsha say? The end of next week's Parsha. Chai Sorrow. Turn your page. Page 120 in this Parsha, Shishi, chapter 25. Vayosef Avram, Vayikach Isha. Avram perceived and took a wife to himself. Ushma Keturah. And her name was Keturah. Who is this wonderful lady Keturah? Says Rashi. And you can see it in the footnote in the English also, a translation of Rashi, footnote number 1. Keturah, Avram married Hagar. Is the name Keturah or Hagar? The name is Hagar. But they nickname here Keturah. Why did they nickname it Keturah? Says Rashi, she was given the name Keturah because her deeds were as beautiful as incense. Incense is called in Hebrew Ktoret. And because she remained, what is that? She remained chaste. Keturah as Aramaic for restrained from the time she was separated from Avram. Meaning she did not live with any other man. She wasn't involved in anything forbidden. She was like Keturah, like closed up. Avram find a shidduch. Who is the shidduch? He's 140 years old and he's getting married to the third time. And not more and not less than who? Than this very woman which his wife told him, get out of the house. While his wife is sending Hagar out of the house, And then she's sending Ishmael himself out of the house. Avram is asking God, please let me stay with Ishmael. Not only that, he's going back to Hagar. You don't have to be a commentator of the Chumash to think and to wonder what happened over here in Bein Shalom. Does it make sense? Your wife tells you before she dies, listen, Moishala, whoever you want you can marry. I know you still have it in you. Find a wife. But this lady I don't want you to marry. This particular lady, I never liked her. She's not good for me, she's not good for you, she's not good for our children. Do not marry her. I think every person in a normal situation would probably listen to his wife on that matter. Agree or not? Well, you accept it. You might not get married to anybody because of that, because you still want here. But still, you have to have a little decency. That's the only thing she asked. We never saw that Sarah asked Avram not to marry her. But we clearly saw that this is a very unlikable woman in the eyes of Sarah. היא לא אוהבת אותה. נכון? She doesn't like her. She threw her out of her house. And not only did he disagree with her, and he listened to her only because God told him to have to listen with her, but now that she died, and Yitzchak is married, and what does he do? Vayosef Avram, vayikach isho, shmo keturo. And you think that was it? You're already 140 years old. You have a son Ishmael, you have a son Yitzchak, be happy. No. 6 more kids is he having with this Hagar. Take a look at the next verse. Verse 2. Vatered loy, and she gave birth to him with them. Zimron, Yokshon, Medon, Midian, Yishbon, Shuach. The story becomes even more weird at every given moment. You see how weird it becomes now? Look what happens on verse 5. It keeps on circling. What does Avram do now? He got married to the Hagar. He had 6 children with her. What does he do now? He takes everything he has, and who does he give it to? What are you doing? Vayiten Avram es kol asher loi. Everything he had, he gave to Yitzchak. You got a will signed by a lawyer that I give every detail, every single thing goes to Yitzchak. Properties, cattle, behemoths, food, kugel, cholent, everything goes to Yitzchak. Everything goes to Yitzchak. And what happens to those children he had? Vayeshalchem, he sent them away to the east, India, Chvezvu. Go. He gives them some gifts, and it's over. Oy, what a roller coaster. What a roller coaster. You're taking 3 Parshas together, and you try to focus on one story. Forget about every other story, the Akedah, the angels, the food. I always mention, if you want to learn the Parsha and come up with something substantial, you got to find a single subject and concentrate on it. If not, we can get lost and, there was a long Parsha with so many stories. Take a subject. We took a subject, the relationship between Avram and Sara and Hagar. That's our subject. We went through 3 portions in the Torah, and then when you read those 3 portions together and you make the whole story into one story, it just does not make sense. Ma korepo? What is going on here? What is going on? So let's summarize the questions. Number one, why does Sarah cause so much pain to Hagar? She initiated the project. She was the woman that Sarah, brought to get married to Avram. Number two, how does Sarah have the courage to go and ask her husband to send away his firstborn son, who was born to him when he was 86 years old, waiting for a child? Number three, how does it come that after Sarah dies, comes Avram and remarries the same woman Hagar, the woman that Sarah threw out of the house? And number four, what do you keep on having children with this Hagar? 6 children, while you see that at the end of that 6 children, you're just sending them away with some gifts. Ma קורה פה? The Gemara actually said, the famous story of this great, what was his name? This great general, Alexander Mukdon, Alexander of Macedonia. He was a young man. Wasn't so many years. I think they say he was 33 years old when he died, but he kept on conquering the world. The Gemara says he made some visits, and in one of the visits, he met some people of Egypt, and he met some people of Ishmael, some Arabs. And they wanted for him to advise them with some complaints they had against the Jews, the Egyptians. And the Ishmaelites also came with a complaint. The Egyptians wanted the gold that we took during the night of Passover. And there was a Jewish advocate who got up there and says, let's figure out 400 years of minimum wages of so many Jews working hard for you and see who owes who. And the guys basically picked up their feet and ran. But then came the Gemara and says, in Sanhedrin, page 91, that descendants of Ishmael and descendants of Keturah. Who is Keturah? The wife of Abraham, the Rebbe's and Hagar. They came and they asked for a court, a court case, to present them for a dispute, for an issue they have with them and the Jews. And they asked Alexander Mogdon, Alexander of Macedonia, to take care on this issue. What was their claim, says the Gemara? They said, the Ishmaelites said, the land of Canaan belongs to us. And to you too. But belongs to us too. Why? Because it says in this week's Parsha, Vayeira told us Ishmael ben Avram. These are the descendants of Ishmael, the son of Avram. And it says later in the next 2 weeks Parsha, Vayeira told us Yitzchak ben Avram. So there is Ishmael ben Avram, there is Yitzchak ben Avram. We are all Avram's kids. And we want to have part of the land. We also want to have part of the land. Came the same guy, Gvir ben Psisa, and he said, okay, you ready? This is your proof? Good. Let me open the Old Testament. Why are you proving you claim? From the verse? Let's open the verse. And the Gemara says that he opened up this Parsha, which it says in this verse that we just read on chapter 25, verse 5 and verse 6, that the Torah says, Va'itein Avram et kol ashaloi liYitzchak. Avram gave all that he had, he gave to Yitzchak. And to the concubine's children, meaning Ishmael and his sons of Keturah, they were concubine children. Nasan Avram matonos. He gave them gifts. So this guy says, if a father gives, during his lifetime, he decides to give to one son and then prevent anything from another son. Is there any claim? There's no claim. It's a gift. He can do what he wants. It's his. While he's alive, it's his. And when it's yours, you can gift it to whoever you want. After you're dead, we are all inheritors, and then starts a discussion. Can you inherit more than me? And then you have to get into court. But while you're alive, it's mine. No one argues if it's mine. I owned it. And now I want to gift it. I want to gift 50% to one child, 50% to another child. I want to give 100% to one child and 0% to another child. I can do what I want. It's gifted. It's gifts. So this is what Rabbi said, that you don't have any claim for Israel. Avram gave your ancestors part of his possessions and then sent them out of Israel to a different land. To a different land. Indicating that they were to have no part in Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara says even more. The Gemara translates, what is the gift that he gave them? So there's all kind of commentaries which talk about, Eastern science or Eastern medicine. They say it has to do somehow with the gifts that Avram gave those concubines and their children. He gave them some parts of wisdom. The Gemara says, what's the gift? Shem Tuma. He gave over to them the knowledge of how to use the utterance, how to spell out the name which represents Tuma, unclean, sorcery. They were not, sorcery. There's a concept of called sorcery, kishuf. There's such a thing. And he gave it to them. It's from Brazil. Does it still exist in Brazil? They say in Brazil they have sorcerers. Never heard? That's what I heard, that in Brazil. But they have it. They have these things in Spain, in India, in this kind of places. So they said that the Gemara said that Avram gave them the secret. How to use sorcery, how to use, those magic kind of, behaviors.
There's a name that the Hindus use in India. It's called Brahmins.
Parami?
Brahmins. They are very ancient Indians that were there. And if you look at the name Brahmin, it's like Abraham.
Oh, Abraham, Brahmin. Oh, interesting.
Brahmins come from the children of Abraham.
Yeah. No, this is a guy from India, so if he says it, I guess we have to accept it.
That would be true.
I'm going to share one word, one insight that the Rebbe speaks in two places in Lent, but try to bring out the point, so at least we can have a little understanding to what's going on here. The Rebbe discusses that Avram and Sarah had a whole radical difference how to view their mission in life and how to express that mission. Both recognized, like we know from the get-go, that there is a God in this world. And they were very much involved in influencing the world with this universal message that there is a God. Matter of fact, they succeeded. They succeeded. How do we know they succeeded? Because there is billions of people today, in the 21st century, who believe in God. They can believe in God as Jews, they can believe in God as non-Jews, Mahavdil, but they believe in God. The Rambam talks about even the powers of Islam and the powers of Christianity. The Rambam clearly associates with the idea that they also introduced and brought closer the message of Abraham and Sarah. God is known to the world. How many pagans do we have in the United States of America? How many people worship stones and rocks and metal and who knows what? A few in San Francisco, a few here, a few there, but it doesn't really happen. Why? That Avraham Avinu won. The message of Avraham Avinu was accepted with hard work, mesirus nefesh, of sacrifice. He accomplished that his message of monotheism and godliness is all over the world. Every person in the world who picks up a dollar bill in his hands will find 3 words: in God we trust. Not only we believe in Him, we rely on Him, we trust Him. It's more than just believing in Him. Everywhere. You go to Argentina, people talk about God. You go to Brazil, people talk about God. In Russia today, people spoke about God. They tried to stop it, didn't work. 7 years later, it was all over, it came back. Shuls, the non-shuls, people are talking about God. Avram had a mission. His name was Avraham. The Torah says, why is your name going to be Avraham? Av hamoin goyim nesaticha. I made you the father of a multitude of nations. Avram had an agenda. And for this, in his agenda, Ishmael has to be home. His agenda is to bring godliness into the world. The message that there is a God. Whether it's for his son Yitzchak, but it's not only for Yitzchak. Everybody has to know there is a God. He met people in downtown, he told them there is a God. He met people in the elevator, he told them there is a God. He met people on the helicopters, on the planes. Everywhere he went, he wanted people to know God. And for that, Hagar is a perfect match. Hagar should not be chased out of the house. Hagar deserves to be home in order to communicate that message universally. Ishmael is supposed to be home. And if there is an opportunity to marry Hagar, seeing that she's a woman who watched herself so modestly, and she actually behaves properly, like her name is actually Keturah, not Hagar. She's like Ktoret, she's like incense. She's beautiful in her deeds, in her action. So Avram says, I know Sarah agrees from heaven that I should marry her and to have children with her. So more people are descendants of me, of Abraham, and carry that same message and the universal message. They believe in a God. This was Abraham's mission. This was Abraham's job. Then comes Sarah. Sarah is the more particular one. And Sarah says, listen, I understand your message, and I believe in your message, and I support your message, and I'm a co-director of your organization, right? Abraham and Sarah build the same tent, but you have to remember, there is a mission that God has with Yitzchak. And me as a mother, I have to ensure that Yitzchak and Yitzchak's life and Yitzchak's achievements and Yitzchak's purpose in life is preserved with full sanctity, 100%, without being lost there in the greater world, in the greater universe. And for that, I got to have Shmuel out of the house. Not that I disagree with you. I agree that we have to take care of Shmuel. We have to reach out to the whole world. But if we are keeping them in the same home, if we are all equal, then Yitzchak is never going to realize that he is different, but the same. Yitzchak needs to know that yes, you are a part of society and you are part of this great mission and everybody belongs. We have to make sure that this universal message goes across everywhere and people behave properly and there is a wonderful society. People are kind to each other. Everything has to know. But Avram, you are busy with this great mission. I'm Yitzchak's mother, and you know that God told you there is a covenant that He made with Yitzchak, so I need him to be involved, but at the same time realize that he's involved but not completely involved. Like they say, involved but separated. Like the Hanukkah story, the oil, right? It's a part, it comes in complete contact with the water, and at the same time, that's detached. That's the story of Hanukkah. And that's the story of Yitzchak and his descendants. What happened when they came down to Mitzrayim? What happened when they came down into other societies? They got very involved and for good purposes. But you need to have something to watch you. There's a famous saying, not true in whose name they say it, that more than the Jews kept the Shabbos, Shabbos kept the Jews. You heard it saying. What did Shabbos keep you? What do you mean they kept us? We keep Shabbos. What do you mean Shabbos keeps us? You create a time and a day in the week that you are telling your boss, I'm not coming to work. What do you mean? 6 days of the week you're with me. We're sitting around the same table. We are working together. We're drinking coffee every day. Sitting in the office, in the hallways. You're getting paid by me. And then one day a week you tell your boss and all your co-workers and the entire company, Shabbos, I'm out. Why? Shabbos. This is Sarah. This is Sarah. Sarah was the one who her interest and her mission was to be the particular one and to watch over Yitzchak, that as much that he is involved in this great mission of his father, still knows that he is a Yitzchak. And for that, she did things which maybe went a little above and beyond. You know what the Ramban says? Very scary word, but he says it. The Ramban says that because Sarah chasing Ishmael out of the house, we're going to be dealing with those Ishmael descendants for many, many years, as we see today. Who do you think is throwing those missiles from the Gaza Strip into Ashkelon? Our cousins. This is Hagar's kids that Avram wanted to keep home. And he got it. Sarah was a little harsh. That's what the Ramban says. She had to figure out a different way than throwing him out of the house. So I'm not talking about how she did it. This needs explanation, and according to the Ramban, maybe she should have found a different way. But the ideological difference between Avram and Sarah can be understood if we view it from these two directions, how to bring God's purpose into the world, the purpose that he has as a universal purpose, and the purpose that he has of Yitzchak and his descendants for the Jewish people. And that is the stories of Lech Lecha and Vayeira and Chayesara and everything what goes in between, and the remarriage and the children being sent away. Everything is a part of this big picture. You want to hear a little Hasidic insight? Or you want to go home already? Let me tell you a little Hasidic insight. Don't tell it to anybody. No. Listen to Gemara. This is something which is brought down by the Tzemach Tzedek. Brings it from Kabbalistic sources. There's a very interesting story in this Gemara in Baba Basra, the last page of the third chapter in Baba Basra. The Gemara talks about a great man, which as Rashi writes, when he talks about this man, Rashi only says, Adam Chashuv. Gemara says, Rabbanoe. There was a great rabbi. Anybody who needs to leave, you can leave. But if you have want to hear something interesting, stay. There was a rabbi with the name Rab Banoe. Rashi says, who was this Banoe guy? Says Rashi, Odom Godoil V'Chashuv. He was a great man and a very significant person. Don't know who was, but he was apparently involved in visiting the grave sites of the righteous people in Israel. and he was identifying those graves in order to make sure that also Kohanim don't step over it, because a Kohen will have to be on a grave, and at the same time making sure that that you can't carry any sacred food. Remember, during temple times, you can't have sacred food during a cemetery. Says the Gemara, listen to our story, page 58. In Rabbi Basra, Rabbi Noah would mark the boundaries of burial places of people, so people should not, contact Tuma, impurity. When he reached the grave of Abraham, our forefather, and he wanted to take the dimensions of the grave, so to know, what dimensions are is Abraham, and now he wants to go inside a cave, take the measurements of Abraham, so to know how far the impurity travels. By the door he meets Eliezer, the servant of Avram. He's standing by the entrance. Don't ask me, 1,000 years later, Eliezer is by the entrance. Did he meet his soul? Did he meet him personally? I don't know. This is the story, a Talmudic story. He sees Eliezer standing by the door. Rabbi Noah says to Eliezer, what is Avram doing? He thought that Eliezer is guarding the entrance, so to prevent Avram from being disturbed. So he asked Eliezer, what kind of activities is Avram involved that you are watching the door? Why can't I go visit him? What did he tell him? Omalei, so Eliezer said to Rabbi Noah, you know what Avram is doing? He is lying in the arms of Sarah, and she's peering out his head. When you have to check for lice? So she is the one who checks out his hair from lice. Avram is in Sarah's hand, and she is checking his head of lice. She told them, go tell him that Banoe is outside. And he came in, and there was a discussion there, and the Gemara says, when he came out, he says, ooh, what kind of beauty he saw, he cannot even describe it. And Sarah's beauty, and Adam's beauty, and Chava's beauty. He was very overwhelmed by what he saw. You read a story like this, you obviously assume this is a pesnada, a pesamaisa. Something is going on. Moving the lice of Avram's head. So the Tzemach Tzedek says, this is what it says. What is lice? Lice crawl on a person's head. Lice are not getting born by father and mother. They sustain themselves. They support themselves by the sweat, right, of the person himself. That's how they grow. By the sweat, by the vitality of the person. That's how they grow. So Sarah is telling Avram, you think that everybody is rolling on your head and is sustained by you has to be a part of you. Let me show you something. And she keeps on moving away those lies from his head, proving your opinion that don't be so universal and accepting, and everybody is welcome, and Ishmael is a part of you. Yeah, they are growing in you, but they're really not a part of you. In other words, this dialogue between Sarah and Avram, according to this, is still continuing in their gravesite. It's not done. It's not done. What do you mean it's not done? Because this is the paradox of life. And we have to face that paradox. To be involved and remain detached. Not easy. We live in a world that we have to eat, and we have to drink, and we have to be involved in all kinds of physical and material matters. So we are expected to be involved. Abraham, taking Ishmael, taking everything, eat fresh, right? At the same time, touch yourself. Hello, this is not your life. Keep your head above the water. Sarah. And that's what keeps on going on there. The lice are crawling. Sarah keeps on. What are you scratching your head? Everything is okay. Verstehst? This is what's going on. Have a good day, everybody. Laila Tov.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Anytime. Come back next week.